Wow, I've gotten quite a bit of attention now on my video saying that it is good to have people leave their religion. Deconversion is good, deconstruction is good. Talking to people and having them walk away from beliefs that refuse to agree with logic and reasoning, have them abandon critical thinking, have them subjugate themselves to some sort of order or organization without thinking about what they're doing is a good thing. And that is why I think deconversion is a good thing. Now, many religious people have found this video, have given me polite or not so polite comments in regards to what I'm saying. So let's take the time now to respond to them because nothing is better than a discussion. Okay, that was the world's fastest intro ever. I was supposed to play the whole thing, but let's just go on with it. So, first comment here from UN Holy Blunts Go 5CR. Interesting name here. I would like to appreciate me for sharing my personal belief, which is great. So thank you for thanking me. This person says, I am an atheist. Okay. I have never believed in a higher power and I don't believe in religious beliefs. Okay. I think maybe your vocabulary could be a bit more unique there. I see we're saying believe in beliefs, but righto, agree with you there. I always saw religion as a way to have control within countries. And again, I hate to pick on grammar, but countries is spelled with IE. But yes, I agree that is true. Religion is used as a means to control a populations. Think to, the mandate of heaven within Chinese empires in the past. Today, think about Donald Trump appealing to Christian zealots, fundies, Christian nationalism, etc. So yes, it is always and has been always used as a way to control power within a country. Countries have borders and religions don't. That's also a really great point. Religion can exist in a diaspora. Now, countries with their culture and their people can also exist in a diaspora, but yeah, probably not to the same extent that you see with religion. For example, and this is perhaps the most, I guess, exaggerated way to say this, but a tiny country with less than a couple hundred people staffing it, which is a completely isolated place within Italy, is responsible for the world's largest population of a single religious denomination, Catholicism, in the Vatican. So you can obviously see how religion extends beyond borders, and historically, Christianity, Islam, have always been looking to expand their reign beyond whatever initial place or locale or country that it has come from. So, yes, religion does expand beyond countries. Mormons actually are also very proud to say that despite really being just a really insular cult within Utah, they've also had great success evangelizing across the world, particularly to in developing countries as well. So places like in Africa, in oceanic um, places as well, different countries there. There's a lot of great information you can see online there about that. But government and religion will always be at conflict. Sure, I agree there. Um, Sometimes, though, it's government is used as a tool with and for religion. But yeah, it'll always be in conflict. Pretty general statement there. Religions used to have conflict with science. This is something I would disagree with. I think religion still currently does, present tense, have conflict with science. You see people pointing to religion to say that a particular, lifestyle is unethical. You can see people pointing to religion to say that the Earth is only a certain number of years old when carbon dating, ecology, geology, all fields of science, natural sciences really point to the Earth being several billion years old. Also, the acceptance or rejection of evolution, the kind of sleight of hand trying to change the curriculum of evolution. I was raised in a elementary school that was a Christian elementary school, which said that evolution is real when it comes to microevolution, but not macroevolution. So it invented scientific distinctions which aren't used in the real science world. That is all just called evolution, or rather, mutations that lead to species evolving over several generations. And so the whole microevolution argument is something that exists because still today, religion is indeed at odds with science. So I would disagree with you here. Now, religion is becoming truly intertwined with politics. I would disagree with you in that I think religion has always been intertwined with politics. Politics is a really broad thing, just as religion is, so it's kind of hard to separate it. But frankly, religion, I mean, if you fall to the Christian belief that it was a persecuted religion within Rome and then became the religion of Rome, then you will know that religion has always been intertwined with politics. So I think this is a bias of us living today in 2025, in that we think that this new upbringing or this new event or trend is something that is particularly unique when it has actually been the case for all of human history. It's about which religion spreads the best virtues that you want a society to have, and you allow that religion to push its values because they are for the greater good of those around you. So this is where we would take a complete U-turn in beliefs and values here at your last statement. So you think that religion should be used to control people, even if you don't think it's true, because you want societies to have values and you want to make sure that those values are the best for society. So that's where you go with picking a religion. Why are you so cucked that you think we need religion, though, to have good values? You don't. You don't see me. I'll just point to myself, okay, because I know myself. I pay my taxes. I do not commit crimes. I love my family. I kiss my children goodnight. And I don't have religion. We don't have religion in our household. You don't need religion to have values that help society. In fact, more often than not, religions have values that hurt society, because Christianity, for example, as I will point to over and over, says that you shouldn't have a gender identity that is different from what you were assigned at birth. Or Christianity will say that practicing, gay, homosexuality, whatever, is a sin, right? Christianity will impose its views upon others in secular think, and Christianity will be used as a cudgel to, go against science, go against whatever ethical values you can think of, whatever religion the case. Of course, Islam is the same, Hinduism is the same in the fact that it subscribes to a set of beliefs firmly without subject to criticism. And anything you tie to that level of authoritarianism within your brain is dangerous to society. Why should you ever teach someone that this is the way a thing is, always and forever, regardless of what evidence points against it? That's the exact opposite of what you should teach somebody to have a value for. So I would say the values you'd want to teach people are secular humanist values, right? Treat others with respect and dignity. Believe that we should all have equitable rights as humans, and try to do the best to promote those. You don't need to teach people that a Jewish guy was killed but then came back to life, and all of your sins, which are this arbitrary set of rules, are now forgiven for that, and you will go to an eternal fairy world to do that over and over for the rest of your life. Or, Muhammad brought you this prophet, and there's this one God, and if you follow these specific rules, then you will go to heaven. Whatever the case is, that is not the way to make a good society, right? That is a way to make a society that is subjugated to a particular ideology. So I don't see how you get from being an atheist to thinking that religion should exist in society. Let's look down here. The Catholics. This guy commented earlier. I'm pretty sure this guy is just a Protestant, and he said the Catholics banned the Bible when people started reading it about 700 A.D. People read it earlier. This was controlled because the Bible disagrees with Rome's agenda. It's funny to see the infighting. I'm just going to point this out here within sects of Christianity. But he's right though in the fact that there's always politics and religion at a disagreement there. So I agree there. Here's a really dumb comment. If there was no God, there would be no atheists. I would like to think that this is a joke, or potentially maybe like The Onion, like satire, because this is so stupid. It's actually unbelievable. And it has 2 upvotes. If there was no God, there would be no atheists. I'm going to actually respond to this. You don't need something to even exist to have a term for it. The term atheist exists because people proclaim their belief in God, not because a God literally exists. And so atheist exists as a term to distinguish yourself from theists. In the same, okay, it would be like this comment is the same as saying if there was no Spider-Man, there would be no non-Spider-Man fans, right? People say I'm not a fan of Spider-Man. Well, if you say you're not a fan of Spider-Man, then clearly Spider-Man exists. Is the same logic here. Because you have a word to describe a thing does not mean the thing itself literally exists. Okay? So Jeffrey3498, please let me know if you're being satirical, because I just took the bait, if you were. If not, that was an incredibly stupid comment, and I hope you can understand now how it was, in fact, quite stupid. Anyway, even and just as a tidbit, even if you do think that a God exists, you don't have to say something this stupid. So just so you know, even if you think a God exists, you don't have to subscribe to this terrible logic. And this is just another point in my courtyard, guys. This is why we need to get rid of religion, because this is the kind of comment that it enables you to write. Okay, let's look here, and okay, so this guy Mike62 McManus just said vaguely, it helped me on the video itself, and so I replied, what do you mean? This is a vague, really vague post. And so then I got the most schizophrenic schizo post, as we call it, possible. Here we go. Maybe I want to think that just like Jeffrey's comment from a moment ago, this is also satire, and I'm just taking the bait right now. If so, amazing troll, guys, unbelievable. But this is actually something that somebody is commenting. Are you aware of the fact that the 5 books of the OT are called the Torah? Yes. Go on. Also, if you count every 50 letters from the first Tav in the books of Genesis and Exodus, every 50 letters spells Torah. And this happens from the 2 books backward from the last T. Every 50 letters, it spells Torah backwards. What is the significance of that? The middle book does something similar. It spells Yahweh forwards and backwards. This is called the Tetragrammaton, okay? What is the significance of that? It is God's name without the vowels, sure. Yahweh, yeah, okay. Ancient Hebrew started with pictograms. Did ancient Hebrew start with pictograms? Is that correct? Like on a bull's head, which is called the Aleph. Okay, that's not Hebrew, right? Isn't that? I mean, Aleph is Hebrew, right? But and we have stylized it and turned it upside down, and it turns to make it A or alpha in Greek. Okay, those are different languages. I'd like to take this to any of my linguistic friends just to know the level of bullshit gradation that we have achieved. But okay, it meant bull, leader, strength. Okay. The last symbol in the ancient Proto-Canaanite is the Ta, and its meaning is the mark, the sign of the covenant testament. Jesus, when he said, I am the Alpha Omega, it was not Greek, it was Hebrew. The bull was the sacrifice for the sins of the high priest. Jesus fulfilled by being sinless, and he fulfilled the cross. Okay, so this is just a Bible story with some symbolism drawn out to a slightly schizophrenic level. Nothing here talks about how religion helps you. Nothing here talks about why religion is beneficial. And especially nothing here talks about how this is true. So I don't know how I'm supposed to even respond to this if it is trying to make a point, right? It's like me saying, like, hey guys, I think broccoli is pretty good for you, right? So we should all eat broccoli. Because it has, these health benefits, and it actually tastes pretty good too. So let's have some broccoli. And then Mike comes along and says, did you know that the 5 books of the Old Testament, when you spell out the letters this way and that way, make this tetragram and that thing that comes together? And so that's why Jesus fulfilled the cross. It's the same level of irrelevance, and it's completely nonsensical. But the thing is, though, and it almost feels like beating a dead horse for me saying this, but this is why religion is literally toxic to your brain, because you think that a response like this not just makes sense, but is something worthy of a response. Is something that actually has an effect, because there's no coherence with what I'm saying, what I'm asking, and what you're saying. Maybe he commented in the wrong spot of the YouTube thread. I don't know. Um, but you believe that your religion has magical properties to the words of it. You believe that because God is there and he's blessing you and blessing his believers, that just saying the words themselves, regardless of the context, regardless of the coherence, regardless of the point being made, that there is power in and of themselves. And you have to believe this. You have to believe this as a religious, you know, faithful person to this God, because you have to believe in the truth of the words there. And so it just leads you to these absurd behaviors, where you can, I mean, so I call it schizophrenic. It's not my attempt to be mean or troll. It's equivalent to that, because there's no coherence with not even just what he's saying internally, but to what I'm saying as a response to it. And then he also replied here to somebody. Oh my God. So I don't like. I'm happy to have a legitimate conversation and comment, but hey, look, what is this? What is this? Um, do, I don't. Do I want to read it? I mean, I can read it. But he's talking about coming back to Montreal at a tough time. So having a problem, being down in the dumps. Um, something about gambling. Okay, short story. Like, it's just a short story. By the way, put it okay. Okay, met with a sad child. Okay. Okay, and the child, and then he asked what God said, and okay. Promises. So he talks to a child, says the promises can be trusted. He spoke to him. All right. Okay. Twice. Now twice. Okay. 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 I mean, this is just, and I feel bad saying this almost, but this is just somebody's personal experience that he's interpreted as legitimate proof for the existence of a God. But that's it. It's just a story about somebody's personal experience with how they came to God. And that's fine, right? But it doesn't do anything to say how it's good for society, or it's better that people have religion. And I guess it's talking about maybe in his own personal experience, how religion was good for him, is fine. And you know what? If that's all religion did was just these, kind of like wives' tales, your grandma posts on Facebook, about these stories about somebody being moved and helping them maybe get away from drinking. If that's all religion was, then I wouldn't feel the need to be so anti-theistic. But that's not all religion is. Religion does so much more harm than good. This is not where it stops. And frankly, you could imagine a world where he had just as much of a moving experience, but it didn't require him to be tricked into believing in the existence of a God, or whatever the story was that got him there. And the fact is, all of these crazy stories about, you having this experience with God, or somebody speaking through themselves, with God to them, they're all being manipulated, at the very least, by the pieces of the element in the story itself, like this child speaking to him in the story, or him hearing voices from God, but at a greater level from society itself, because if you live in most of the world, there's going to be some beliefs that like a religious existence is part of the normal culture, right? So that's there's just always like permutating like vibe of Christianity that's trying to be pushed upon us. So it's almost, it's like bound to happen in that way, not because it's true or real, but because you're looking for signs, and you're being told to look for signs even when they're not there. I mean, you know about like the Fatima um, Mary appearances, right? Hundreds of people went into a field, and claimed they saw, the Virgin Mary after they were looking in the sun, and maybe they were being societally pressured to look for it. Maybe they were, having some belief in their mind that pushed them to it. But it's all just manipulation. It's all just being pushed into a certain way of thinking. And at the end, even if you present this to me, this is just somebody's personal story. This is just somebody's personal anecdote, but it has no real bearing upon anything to like a level of evidence. So if it helped this person personally, and that was all religion ever did, then I would have no problem with this. To the same reason I have no problem with anybody partaking in, a fandom of some topic or culture. But again, it doesn't stop there. Okay, here's another one. Take on Islam with the same view and see how you go. So this is kind of like a, well, we're not the worst kind of argument, I feel, in that they're saying like, yeah, no, Christianity is the good one. Why don't you look at Islam? And let me respond to you in two ways. I think Christianity is just as bad as Islam, if not worse. And that Islam does the same thing. It tells you to subjugate yourself to a particular set of beliefs without critical examination. Islam purports itself to be the truth, but that truth includes subjugating women, subjugating people who are queer, dominating other cultures, proposing one particular truth that can't be verified. And so I will vehemently disagree with that as well, in every sense. So yes, I am equally anti-theistic to Islam and Christianity. Here's another comment. We're just making certain idiots rich. Yeah, sure. This is a pretty broad comment. I don't know if it's referring to anybody specifically, but there are many, many multi-million, multi-billion dollar patrons, well, patron is the one who gives the money, right? I guess someone who, many people who benefit financially from the riches that religion takes. If you just look at, I was talking about the Mormon Church earlier, but the Mormon Church is one of the richest companies in the U.S., right? It has, I think, 300 or 400 billion dollars in wealth, because it's not taxed. It's a church, right? So it's actually insane. You can think of wealth, prosperity preachers flying in private jets to wherever they go to preach. You can think about, I think it's the Russian patriarch who has like a private, for the Eastern Orthodox Church, he has like his own private jet or private boat and all these things, right? So yeah, religion is used to make many people rich. I completely agree. Okay, here's another one. I don't think that there is a single civilization that has ever been built by atheists. Okay. Morality isn't formed out of a mystical void of personal self-determination. Okay. The socially understood set of principles that defines a nation, and religion is the precursor to law. Okay. You can't even get into this paragraph with there being so many things here. But let's just continue reading. Also, you're carrying on about Christianity as if the Templars were suiting up to fight another crusade instead of the Pope blessing ice blocks to fight climate change and Protestants electing gay bishops. I don't know what he's going on about there. Christianity is having a bit of an identity crisis. So it's funny you would cite it as a spread by force faith instead of Islam, which would be at least more accurate to your characterizations. Okay, so let's go one bit at a time. I don't think that there has been a single civilization that has ever been built. Atheist is a pretty recent term. And so I don't know if there's been a single civilization that's been built by atheists solely. Atheist also doesn't refer to a particular tribe or group of people. It's just saying that you lack a belief in God. So to say like, hey, we are the atheists, we're going to build a civilization now, is something that you wouldn't really see happening. It also doesn't indicate anything about its societal efficacy in terms of just the fact that there hasn't been a person who's built it yet. If historically we've had an idea that it was good or bad, but it's always been used, that doesn't mean that it's a better idea. It just means it was historically there. You could probably say you don't think there's been a single large civilization built without slavery or indentured servitude. And I would venture to say that that is probably just as correct as this statement. Does that mean we should continue to include slavery or indentured servitude in our society today? No. This is an argument from history, and I don't even know if it is correct, and I don't have the wherewithal to research this right now, that there are particularly societies literally built by people who are saying they're atheists, but there have been civilizations that have been built without a religious reckoning for it to be built in secular ways. So it doesn't religion isn't a necessity to build a civilization. Morality isn't formed out of a mystical void of personal self-determination. I don't know where you get the idea that it's one person coming up with morality or that it is out of a void. But even if that's the case, it doesn't require a god or religion to exist. I think morality comes from looking at what is best for humanity as a whole. And that's not coming out of a void or just me trying to figure it out myself. It's from me in dialogue and in research, understanding the world around us, and arguing about that and what is best for humanity as a whole. That's not coming out of a mystical void or anything like that. It's literally just the ongoing discussion and debate between humans, and what emerges from that is what we can have as morality. So it doesn't require religion. It's a socially understood set of principles that defines a nation. I don't know about that. I mean, a nation again is a modern term, right? And a socially understood set of principles that defines a nation. It doesn't define a nation. There's no one nation that has this is Zimbabwe. This is Zimbabwe morality. This is Canada morality. It's a complete gradation. It's not a black and white, right? There are people within countries, because countries themselves are to an extent arbitrary human inventions, with different sects, different cliques, different ideas, different ideologies, always at conflict, and then what comes up as the ruling, governing body in that country is not the monolith of the country's belief system or morality. No, it's a compromise. It's a continuous compromise, and a continuous power struggle. So there's not like a nation and a religion, and a morality. It's a cornucopia of all of those things. And religion is the precursor to law. Where do you get that? There's nothing in a law book today that says this comes from religion. This comes from religion. Religion uses laws. That doesn't mean religion is the precursor to laws. You can think of making whatever kind of system, right? Whatever kind of school, let's say, and you might come up with the rules or the laws in the school that you have to follow to. No, here's the rule: if you cheat, then you're out of the school. Does that require religion? And in the same way that even if it were the case that historically religion has been there with people inventing, coming up with and building civilizations, that doesn't mean it should be the way we use it moving forward. In the same way, slavery has been used to build civilizations. So just because something comes before, or something has come historically with something, that doesn't mean it's good or true or right. And so I think law exists separate from religion, for all. Like you can look at, I'm going to look at China. There has been Confucian ways of thinking. There's been legalist ways of thinking that exist separate from religion, and that's in an ancient historical context, right? So you don't need religion to instigate law. It kind of exists separate from it. Also, you're carrying on about Christianity as if the Templars were suiting up to fight another crusade. So I guess what you're saying is like, no, Christianity's changing today. It doesn't do conquest anymore. the fact of the matter is that Christianity at its core is purporting itself to be the truth, right? And it wants to impress that truth upon the world. Christianity is still, yes, saying to go out into every nation and spread the good news, as it were. And yes, you admit it yourself that they do wars for that. They do crusades for that, literally. So I don't know how the fact that there are some sects and some denominations of Christianity today where things are changing, that doesn't change the core, which is to evangelize. And would you then say that there are no missions going around the world to try and get people to become Christian today? Because that would be a blatant lie, right? En masse, with every denomination of Christianity, essentially, they are sending people out into third world countries to do whatever kind of missions, whatever kind of, evangelizing. So it's not something that has ever stopped. And in fact, there is still violence in the name of religion everywhere throughout the world. And I don't understand this obsession for me to specifically point at Islam. I think that Islam and Christianity and Hinduism all use violence to create a means to an end. I can point to dozens of terrorist acts within the United States, within a single country, of people using Christianity or Christian nationalism as a motive to attack maybe a clinic or any sort of organization that has had violence based on religion is non-stopping, right? And so maybe there's a case where you have a particular denomination that has gay bishops or gay preachers or gay pastors, whatever, or you have the Pope blessing icebergs. Okay, that doesn't change the fact that people use religion, Christianity in particular, because it's the largest religion in the world, as a violent way of impressing itself upon others. So you can point at the other things going on, but that doesn't change the core of the behemoth that is your disgusting religion. And that is the same with Islam. Sure, I don't talk about Islam as much because I am more familiar with Christianity. But yes, any religion that uses violence and attempts to conquer other lands and other peoples is something that I think is toxic to us as a species. So yeah, that's why I will be anti-theistic. Christianity is having a bit of an identity crisis. Again, and then Christianity isn't a monolith, right? Again, there are different denominations, different ways of thinking, different ways to integrate Christianity within your own existence. Sure. So it's funny you would cite the spread of force faith instead of Islam. So yeah, again, Islam does use force to spread itself. Christianity also uses force to spread itself. There are Islam and Christian sects that are more agreeable with today's values and willing to be cohesive within society, but at the core, they still want to impress upon others their viewpoint, their worldview. And then I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to want to share your worldview with others, but the difference between Christianity, Islam, whatever religion, and non-religious thought is that religious thought anchors itself to an incorrect way of thinking that ultimately requires you to deny evidence to believe in a thing. And secular forms of thought do not. So that's the primary difference, and that's the reason that I will be and continue to be anti-theistic. Okay, here's one from the Beelers. Sorry, I translated that to Japanese. 2102. I'm glad I heard your argument out. Thank you for hearing my argument out. But it's unfortunately unoriginal. Okay, you're young. And I remember those days of ignorance respectfully. You are conflating Islam and Christianity. The good news has nothing to do with domination. You should actually attend some churches as an analysis of what is really going on in there. A lot to comment on here. But what I like first is that by putting the comma respectfully at the end of the sentence, you basically give yourself a I can say whatever I want card for free but then say it's respectful. Here's a bag of shit respectfully. Okay, so let me take that for you. But in all seriousness, there's no argument here. It just says go to church and then talk to me, is what is saying here. But unfortunately, your argument is also unoriginal, if I'm being frank. And here's the thing: if you think that atheists or anti-theists or whoever has a secular argument against your religion is saying something unoriginal, the reason is it's because religion doesn't bring any original arguments. The reason you hear the same arguments from atheist and secular people over and over is because religious people bring the same problems over and over. So it's not that I'm saying the same thing over and over again. It's that I'm having to respond to the same issue over and over again. You're young, and I remember those days of ignorance respectfully. I'll respond to you in two ways. One, doesn't matter my age, has nothing to do with the argument itself. Two, I am young, but frankly, I probably have more world experience than you do. Sure, it looks like you have some kids in your profile. I'd actually probably advise you to not put your children in your Google or YouTube account because, personal information just putting on the World Wide Web. But I am near 30. I have children. I've lived in 2 different countries. I'm married. I've changed careers several times. I've run a company before. I've worked in many different roles. So I have a very cultured and unique experience and can talk to many different things. I've gone to university. I've gotten a degree. I've studied many different subjects. So I have a very, I would say, broad view of the world in the particular places I've been. So I don't know if you have something that is a much deeper, richer experience. Obviously, when I get even older, I'll have more world experience. Sure. But to call my experience based on my argument against religion, days of ignorance, I think is ignorant from your perspective. And again, just as I said, the reason what I'm saying isn't original is because religious people tend not to bring original arguments. So maybe if I hear something unique, then you'll hear a unique argument from atheist. I'm conflating Islam and Christianity. I'm not, though, because both religions use force still today to impress themselves upon others. Yes, there are many more states in the Middle East that use Islam to, as a theocracy, right, across the Middle East. And I do think it's abhorrent. And I do think that those, governments should be toppled. And the reason that Christianity isn't like that today, because it was, is because of the Renaissance, is because of, the people going to secular thought, right? Christianity did have a dark ages. It did have crusades, and it did have, Christian rule across Europe, across the world at the time. And people went to war with each other constantly, and Christianity was there at the back burner all the time. It has everything to do with domination. You are putting in light your message as the good news, but what your religion is, it's a cult of death. It's preaching that a savior, Messiah, came with no firsthand accounts, that died in a gruesome crucifixion, which was necessary for all of humanity to have that blood sanctify themselves. And that sounds absolutely absurd. You are forming a cult, a blood-packed cult that you are impressing upon the world as good news. And so this is just a euphemism for your old Bronze Age religion. And it has everything to do with domination. All people, right, will submit to God. You have a belief in Paul's writings in Revelation that God will come and all who believe will be brought with him. It is absurd, and it has everything to do with domination. And so I don't know if me going to church will change that fact, because I was raised religious. I was raised in a deeply religious household, and I have studied all different kinds of thought in regard to religion, particularly with Christianity. The origins of the church history of Christianity, the different denominations of Christianity, and in the world today. And I don't know if me going to church again will change the fact that Christianity still today persecutes gay people. Will change the fact that there are still sexual predators being protected constantly in the church. That churches are and pastors are constantly being found with examples of fraud, and that there are just constant injustice always being carried out in the name of religion. Hitchens, I think, says it best in that religion has a unique force to make otherwise moral people do abhorrent things and call them good. In the same way that you would defend your God to absolutely desecrate, or I guess genocide, really, several groups in the Bible, being a tribal Jewish patriarch God, it is the same God, same religion, same philosophy that's being used today to justify all that. And so I don't think that attending a church will give me some sort of spiritual experience that makes those things justified, or that somehow changes the logic for all of those things to be okay and brushed away. If you knew that, I would like to know. But otherwise, to me, this just reads as join my religion, join my religion. Okay. Another atheist spouts his nonsense. You notice he leaves Islam alone because he is a coward. As I have said 3 to 4 times, I am happy to attack Islam as much as I am Christianity. So I just don't know as much about Islam, frankly. That's on me. And then whatever part was nonsense, I would encourage you to specifically write what, because genuinely when you are attacking or criticizing somebody's arguments or points, you need to say specifically where and how they are incorrect, right? Or where and how they could be refined. So right now you're just calling the entire 15 minutes of me talking about Christianity, religion, being bad for the world as nonsense as a whole. So let me know specifically what parts you have issue with. Do you think that maybe we shouldn't use critical thinking? Do you think that maybe we should subscribe to beliefs that ask us to turn our brains off? Then I would like you to say that specifically. And then the last one here, thank you, Johnny Ups. I only got dumber listening to you. 1 upvote. Let me tell you though, dumber is not a word. You should actually say, I only got more dumb listening to you. So I hope that actually helped you in terms of practicing the grammar. Now, maybe, and it looks like this guy has Spaceballs, right? As his YouTube profile. Maybe he is a fan of old movies, so like Dumb and Dumber is the reference there. If so, I commend you. Great one. But if you want to insult me and say that what I'm talking about has made you less intelligent, maybe you should say what specifically. Otherwise, this is just tribalism in the comment section. So an interesting array of comments. We have some arguments, some people just playing team sports, and some just straight up psychosis. But this is, I think, just further bolstering my point as to why I think religion is bad for society as a whole. If you liked this video and want to hear more, feel free to subscribe, and I'll be posting more content on Patreon as well. Thank you so much.